What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a look at some solo libraries that I personally use on a regular basis. These are ones that, like I said, I personally like to use just because they have a really playable and gorgeous sound to them. I don't have a ton of solo libraries. I'm not one of those people who really likes to collect a whole bunch of libraries just because I know that my hard drive space is really limited, and usually the more that I have, the more easily I get overwhelmed, So I usually prefer to keep things simple. And for the libraries that really do the job well, I like to reuse them over and over because they just serve the purpose and just do a nice job. And it prevents me from having to learn new software all the time. So we're going to go into a couple libraries, show you a couple of the patches, and maybe they'll give you a couple of ideas of some new solo libraries you can look into if you don't have them already. But if you don't have it yet, I want to give you my sample library buyer's guide, absolutely free. It basically contains all the different libraries that I like to use on a regular basis, all condensed down into one easy to read PDF. It's the first link in the description box below if you want to check that out. Again, it's totally free, but it'll kind of give you an indication of kind of like my style, the way I like to view things. And it's organized by like price and also different sections, like all the orchestral stuff, but there's also piano, jazz, ethnic libraries, and all that good stuff. So it's totally free if you want to check it out. I just want to offer it to you in case you're interested in checking out some new libraries. So let's kind of get into the solo instruments here. The first one is the Berlin Woodwind Soloist 1. Now, this library I really enjoy because it contains four of the five well, actually, like three of the four, I should say, core elements of the woodwind section. And so that's the solo flute, solo oboe, solo English horn, and solo clarinet. Yeah, so the English horn is kind of like an oboe doubler, you could say, and the alto flute is another variation on the regular flute. There's also piccolo, but I don't think they sampled the piccolo for the Berlin Woodwind Soloist series anyway. So let's have a listen to this. This is specifically meant for a soloistic purpose, so it kind of stands out further in the mix, and you can really hear the detail and the transitions between the notes. So let's kind of go through these different patches, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Here we go. All right, so I really like this library just because the overall transitions between the notes are very expressive, and the overall performances, you can tell they have a very focused emotional sound to them, right? And overall, the fact that or OT, I should say, Orchestral Tools, decided to record this library with one single dynamic layer really helps prevent any phasing issues and things really sounding weird when transitioning between dynamic layers because there really is only one dynamic layer. So it's kind of like a mezzo forte type of dynamic. It's very middle of the road, but played in a very expressive manner. So it's very applicable to quite a few contexts. And the goal of these libraries was to make it as seamless and smooth as possible. So I think they definitely achieved that. And following on the heels of that library, Solo by Audio Imperia is kind of taking a similar approach here, where they recorded one dynamic layer for these instruments. And for me, the standouts for this library are definitely the vocals. After playing around with it for a while, the vocals, the angelic and operatic solo sopranos, definitely sound beautiful, and the legato is just seamless. So let me play these for you and give you a sense of what they sound like. Okay, so you can hear that the transitions are absolutely beautiful between those, like each of those notes in the vocals. The only gripe that I have sometimes is just that the sustained notes have a bit of a swell to them. So there's a bit of a crescendo and a decrescendo in every single note that you hold for a few seconds. There's going to be a natural swell to it. And while this is beautiful for, let's say, notes that will hold but then transition into another note, when you're trying to hold a longer note that will naturally decrescendo and fade away, you're not going to get that because it has a swell to it, right? It's not going to naturally just fade out, and the sustain is looped. And I don't believe there's a way you can make it not loop. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe there's a way to do that. Whereas in Berlin woodwinds, the sustain is actually not looped. So after you play for a few seconds, the breath will naturally fade away. So it's just it's a different way of doing it. Honestly, there's no right or wrong. I think just having the option of either looping or unlooping would be a nice thing. But again, it's not a huge deal because the overall quality of the vocal sounds great. Let's move on to Cinematic Studio Solo Strings, and this is another library that I love. I use the violin, viola, and cello quite regularly. So let me show you the viola first, and then we'll go into the cello. Here we go. Okay, so sometimes when you fiddle with the patch a little bit, like when you leave it alone for a little bit, it tends to cut off the release sample for some reason. And it's one of those cases where it's doing that right now and it sounds a little abrupt, but that's just a little bug that hopefully they can fix in the future update. Naturally, the release tail kind of sounds like this, right? So you do hear a bit of that hall sound. So one more time. Right, so there is a natural ending. There is a release tail there, just so you know. Let's move on to Tina Guo's cello. Again, a library that I just use all the time. Very, very expressive, and it's just gorgeous. Here we go. And finally, in terms of contact instruments, we also have the Cinebrass Descant horn library, which again just has a beautiful sound to it. I love using it in moments of exposed, like higher horn lines. Okay, and let's also take a look at the Tableau solo strings viola, because that's another instrument that is absolutely beautiful. All three instruments are quite good, but I think the viola is the most expressive one out of them all and sounds the most natural. So this is what this one sounds like. And yeah, for this library, I wish there was also a uh, an infinite bow option. That's what I was trying to say. An infinite bow option where it doesn't hear the rebow. So sometimes I have to kind of shape the sustain around the beat a little bit, so I make sure the rebow doesn't happen like on the offbeat or something, you know. But again, that's a minor little thing. But overall, the playability and the sound of the library is absolutely gorgeous. So Tableau solo strings from um, organic samples and orchestral tools. Very beautiful library as well. So hopefully that gives you a sense of some of my favorite solo libraries. That's all the ones that I use on a regular basis. Again, there are tons of options on the market. You can search up a whole bunch. But again, I like to keep things simple just because there's no use of really having an overabundance of libraries. You might totally disagree and you can let me know. But, you know, it's there. Of course, there's something to be said of having a multitude of different options. But when your space is limited and your projects don't require a ton of different, let's say, sound signatures, right? They just require an instrument that does its job well and sounds convincing. That's good enough reason for me to limit my options and just stick with what I know works. So it saves me money, it saves me storage space, and it saves me brain power. I mean, there's not much more I can ask for there. Hopefully that gives you a sense of the libraries, and let me know if you have considered one of these before, if you don't have them, or you know, maybe you don't really like the sound, so maybe you have your own options that you prefer. Let me know in a comment below. And if you don't have it yet, the Sample Library Buyer's Guide is totally free. It's the first link in the description box below. But again, it kind of takes you through all the sample libraries that I like to use on regular basis, and organizes them by different price and also the different sections of the orchestra and other sections as well. So if you're interested on the market looking for something new, that's something I can offer you totally free. And it's my thank you for watching this video. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.